childhood situations become the cause for many of the situations that people face in adult life outside. In one of the earlier videos, I had discussed two situations related to childhood. One of them related to a child in its mother's womb, an unborn child. And the other situation related to a child who is still very, very small, and before it can understand the world, another child is on the way. This could be a boy, this could be a girl, it doesn't really matter. But these two situations, we are just looking at them as examples in order to understand how childhood situations and influences can become problematic in adult life. So now let us look at that situation of that unborn life in the mother's womb, not yet born. We will not be able to rationalize that there are no eyes and there are no ears, and so how does that baby hear, or how does that baby get any information? The mother is the source of all information to that unborn baby. The feelings of the mother are absolutely going to reach that baby. It doesn't need those five senses. There is something called feeling. And in its earliest stage, life, as we saw in that earlier video, whether it's a cockroach or a butterfly or a smaller creature, what really works is the instinct. Instinct means there is no prior information, still you know. Nobody has said anything to you, still you know. That is instinct. So now, in the case of this unborn child, suppose this unborn child is a female, and there are strong family pressures on this lady who is to give birth to this child, and she's feeling pressurized all the time because the family expects that she should give birth to the heir of the family, somebody. It has to be a boy, and there are traditional mindsets like it is the boy through whom things move forward, the family name and things like that. At least in Indian culture, in many of the states, this has been a practice for many, many years. So in such cases, because of the pressure from family members, the woman herself develops a mindset. She has grown up from childhood with that feeling that no, a boy is superior to a girl. Even when she was a young child, she has seen. She had to do the kitchen work. She had to fill up those bottles to be kept in the refrigerator. She had to clean and wash up, and she had to do this, she had to do that. Her brother was the more privileged one, is something that quite a few girls experience in childhood. Again, this is not a truth which applies to everybody, even within the country. There are states where such things have not been practiced. But we are speaking specifically of such places where such things have been practiced and which have had a strong impact of some kind on the feelings. So we will limit ourselves to that. So we are, presuming that such a state exists. Now, in backgrounds where that preference for the male child is there, and this has been a truth, at least in this country, for many, many years. So, if that kind of a preference exists, the girl has already grown up with that mindset that boy, boy, boy. For some reason, the male child is to be preferred over a female child. This is the mindset that a girl grows up with. Often these things are drilled into the mind. Now, this girl will already have low self worth. Why does she have low self worth? Because the environment in which she has grown up in that place, even though her parents loved her and all that was there, the general mindset has been that of, preference for the male child. And so, somewhere that information goes in. So, the girl has already grown up with low self worth. And now, when she gets married and she has to give birth to a child, even though she is a woman herself and she will, uh, you know, it'll be the same thing whether she's going to carry a boy or a girl, it's one and the same thing. But she somewhere places her own self worth on that idea that if she gives birth to a male child, somehow her own status in the family will improve and somehow she will win the favor of people around her. This is a mindset which is not uncommon at all. So now the girl, even before she actually conceives or anything, she has built up that pressure within herself. I have to give birth to a boy, I have to give birth to a boy, something that is already happening within her system. She cannot help it. That's part of the mindset. And so now she conceives. And after she conceives, that pressure is going to build up because she will keep pressurizing herself. How will she pressurize herself? Through her feelings. This has got to be a boy, this has got to be a boy. Now, what happens? Family members, they'll say all the right things. Think of all the good things, remain relaxed, keep your, eye trained to all lovely things, keep pictures of lovely, healthy babies. They'll say all that. And then they'll also, unconsciously those pressures will begin. This will be a boy. This must be a boy. It will be a boy. They build up that pressure somehow, unknowingly or knowingly. And this girl receives all this. She transfers all those feelings to that child. And even before that child is born, that child has received a very, very potent message. You are not the product we want. You are not the product we want. So, this girl child, even before she is born, she feels completely rejected. Now, when she takes birth, she will see all those situations which will make her rejection complete. So now there'll be relatives, they'll make a face, they'll not want to have anything to do with this child. There'll be grandparents, they'll have all kinds of comments to make. And the mother herself will sort of reject that child through her feelings, because you are not the product we want. We wanted something else. So now this is a feeling, and that feeling has got transferred to that child, and that baby, and that baby is a creature which works by instinct in its earliest stages, and so this feeling will get stored in that baby, and it will be a piece of information that this baby will never ever forget. The parents will spend the rest of their lives, this girl child will grow up, and the parents will absolutely begin to love the child, because they do love their child. It's not that they don't love their child, it's just that a boy would have been preferable because of family reasons or whatever reasons. So now, even though the parents shower their love on the child, and at this level, the girl child knows that my parents love me, they do so much for me, they are willing to do everything for me. But a very important aspect of this girl child, at a level of emotions that she doesn't understand, this information is there in that emotional body, and it cannot be wiped out unless one really consciously works on it. And so, even though the mother and the father may shower their love on this girl child, that girl child at the feeling level tells herself, oh, this story doesn't work with me. I've heard a different story. I've heard a different story. What is that different story? You're not the product we wanted. Now, this girl, as she grows up in life, may, I'm not saying she will experience, because there are so many other things which happen to us in life, and so some of those other things do have the power to heal the situation to a great degree. But often such girls, when they grow up and they get married, they experience that primary feeling of, you are not the product we wanted. This you are not the product we wanted is not something that only girls feel. Boys feel it for various other reasons. In fact, any case of suicide which we look at always has this one single feeling at its core: you are not the product we wanted. You're not wanted. You need not be here at all. So this is a very, this is a kind of message which is very, very bad for any child, whether it's a boy or a girl. And since we are discussing a girl child specifically, so now we look at a specific situation. How can this feeling play out in life? And again, I'm not saying it's going to happen with everybody, but in every case of a marriage in which there has been an other woman, this has been one of the primary feelings. So now this woman, she grows up into a beautiful young lady, she gets married, everything is fine, there's nothing wrong with her, all is well. But then what happens is that feeling has to play out. And so she will experience it through a life situation which will correspond, which will match this feeling. And the girl is not even aware of it. So now she gets married to someone. This girl is perfectly fine. She's a beautiful young woman, very capable, very everything. But because the feeling is there, how will it play out? Her husband will get hold of another woman, and she will experience the same thing through him. You're not the product I want. I want something else. You're not the one I want. I want something else. So now that You are not the product I want something else, appears as a terrible situation outside. It has the power to ruin marriages, it has the power to break a home, it has the power to do so many things. But if you look at its core, there is a feeling at work. And that feeling is an unresolved feeling from childhood. Now, if that girl were to understand, suppose that girl were to understand, and if she were to learn the ways in which she could go back to her childhood and correct that feeling, then although she would have to struggle for a certain period of time, if she were to be willing to consistently work on herself, this situation would absolutely have to go. There is no doubt about it. So, feelings from childhood show up in life, later life, and they show up as terrible situations which appear to be very, very, large. I mean, this is so big that I cannot do anything about it, and it is so unexpected. But if you look at its core, if you boil it down to its essence, this is what you will find. Now, let us look at the second situation, going back to childhood, where there is a child, and before that child learns to sort of understand the world is a new place for him or for her, the second baby is on its way. Now, the mother, uh, uh, let's assume that she is, an emotional person. So she is already not able to cope with that one child, and here another child is on the way. She doesn't say anything, but there is a silent transaction between the mother and that firstborn. Not the child that the mother is carrying in the womb, but the firstborn. And the silent message is that, there's another child on the way, and you will have to accommodate, you will have to take the back seat, you will have to sacrifice. These are silent messages. Nobody makes statements like this. No mother ever made such statements to that firstborn. But that feeling in the mother is, how am I going to cope? I love my firstborn so much, but I will not be able to, take care of him or her the way I want to, because the second child is on the way. How do I cope? And in her great love for that firstborn, she will unknowingly and unconsciously transfer feelings such as these to that child. And that little baby who's not even 1 or 2 years old has to learn to grow up and to support his mother. The mother is expecting support from that child, whether it is a girl child or a boy, whoever it may be, but the firstborn is expected to take a back seat, to sacrifice, and to be supportive towards the mother. In other words, the child has to take care of the mother. Nobody says these in words. No mother ever said these words to any child, but that's a silent transaction that has happened. Now that child, the firstborn, it's a child. And in its earliest stages, it has wanted a sibling. But when the sibling actually arrives, and this 1 or 2 year old child wants the attention of The parent, especially the mother, because proximity with the mother is one of the most basic emotional needs for any child, whether a boy or a girl. So now, even when the mother is expecting the second child, her body doesn't allow it, so she has to gently push away that firstborn. Then the second baby is born. The first baby tries to climb onto the mother's lap. The mother gently pushes the child away. And this happens repeatedly a few times. And again, through that transaction, that feeling, the child gets the message that the other one is, you know, preferred over me. So the other one is the privileged one. The other one is preferred over me. And this is a feeling which the child is absolutely, that firstborn, whether it's a boy or a girl, is absolutely going to carry with him or her, and it'll continue all through life. And this can have terrible effects, things that you cannot imagine. How do these situations play out? What are those feelings going to do? Now, again, it doesn't apply to everyone. It may apply because every case of two children doesn't need to have the same result. You have to understand that life is a school. We have come here to grow. Growing means learning. All of us do not have that same syllabus. What we are studying in class 8, once we have studied that thing in class 8 and gone on to class 10, you don't need to read that. So there will be people for whom this lesson absolutely counts and it will come to them, and there will be people for whom this lesson may never come because at some other time plane it has already come and it has been learned. So if you try to rationalize, it won't work. These are not situations. No life situation is common to everybody. Some things come to some people, some other things come to some other people. That's how life works. So we are looking at common feelings, common life results, and if you can relate to any of these, it might be helpful. So now this firstborn is going to grow up with the idea that that one is preferred over me, someone else is preferred over me. It will become a feeling, and that boy or girl will grow up, and that boy or girl will experience it in various ways. There are different ways in which the boy will experience it, and there are different ways in which the girl will experience it because our emotional natures are different. Let's look at how a girl may experience it. So now, she goes to school, whether it's a boy or a girl, let's say both of them go to school, they have that complaint. They'll come back home. The teacher, she prefers that one over me. I do my best, I do this, but my teacher is never satisfied and she prefers that one over me. So, this is a possible story, not that this story will happen with everybody. But these are some of the stories that will unfold. Then, in later years, this other brother, this other sibling or sister or whoever it is, that one is the privileged one and gets everything. And, even though this child is not neglected at some level, it's not that, but underprivileged, the firstborn remains underprivileged. That will be the result. Then those results will show up. One of the brothers or sisters or whoever is thriving, doing quite well in life, and this one remains underprivileged, always having to sacrifice, always having to take a back seat, always having to take care of the family needs. These become the life stories. If it's a girl, she'll get married, she'll go there, then she'll start complaining. Suppose there's another brother there, that brother gets married. Now there are two daughters in law in that house. The story will run. Now she'll start saying that my mother in law prefers that one over me. I do my best. I'm the one who does everything. She doesn't do anything. I'm the one who does everything. Yet my mother in law prefers that one over me. You boil that preference story, the privilege story. My mother in law prefers that one over me. My husband prefers that woman over me. My brother or sister is the privileged one and I'm the underprivileged one. You boil these stories down to one central childhood story, you'll get your answers. You'll get all your answers about how your childhood story has the power to run your adult life. So once you understand that, you can at least come to a place where you can think whether you want to do something about this.